I am a registered architect with 25 years of experience in land use, site planning, and building design. The last 18 years of which I've been a principal of a firm that I co-founded. In my work, I'm committed to historic preservation. I served on a historic district commission for a number of years. I'm also committed to sustainable design. I'm what's called a LEED AP, which is Leadership in Energy and Environmental Design Accredited Professional, which is a designation put forth by the U.S. Green Building Council. It means that I'm qualified to lead design teams on projects that are more sustainable so that we're using our resources more wisely. In my experience, I've worked in a number of communities. I've presented before a number of regulatory review boards. I've engaged community input, and I've balanced diverse interests in putting forth building designs and site plans. I think this is a skill set that is incredibly important to add to the current skill set on the planning board. I'm familiar with recent changes in the layout of the roadways in Central Ave area, in which there's stop signs added and pedestrian crossings. That has made the area less of a drive-through and more of a place for pedestrians. And I think that it serves to enhance the businesses that are in that area. And if there is a new proposal for traffic, then I will be anxious to get up to speed on it. I think the question has a lot to do with process. I think we need to engage the entire community in a dialogue about our tax base, whether there are opportunities for us to increase our commercial tax base, where it would make sense, rather than be reactive when a proposal comes forth, be a bit more proactive as a town under the leadership of the planning board, engage people in a town-wide dialogue. I think the collaborative nature, there are a lot of people who have a lot of skill sets in Milton. I think if we draw them out and participate, that we'll learn a lot and that we can help balance the interests of the individual and yet have the town be able to move forward into the 21st and 22nd century. I volunteered last year to serve on the Temple Advisory Committee when the planning board was looking for people of a certain skill set, including that of an architect. And through that process, we looked at a lot of proposals and we asked a lot of questions. I brought to bear in that review my 25 years of experience in looking at projects like this in other locations. And I did come to support the plan that was put forth. I spoke at town meeting in favor of the plan. And the reason I spoke in favor of the plan is that while I didn't think the plan itself was in its final form, that there was still a lot of work to be done during the special permit process, I did think that it accomplished some important goals, and that is it would allow the temple, Shalom, to stay on the site. It would allow the Campbell School to stay on the site. It would provide amenities to the community. Many in that community sought those amenities. And it would provide a somewhat of an increase in the commercial tax base, a stepping stone for further increases in our tax base and amenity base. The interesting thing is many of our towns, including Milton, were built before zoning codes were enacted. And in large part, many communities, you wouldn't be able to build the kinds of towns that people really desire under the current zoning codes. I think people are finding that the zoning codes that were written to separate uses and to segregate uses, while are good on a certain level, separating industrial and heavy traffic from residential, for example, separating those from schools, for example. But on the other hand, people are now more interested in having some reasonable neighborhood amenities near them, like used to be when the towns were built before the advent of the automobile dominating how we got around. And I think Milton could benefit from it, taking a look at what we would like to see. What don't we have in Milton that we might like to see here? And then we can use our zoning code and our tools under zoning to help draw that. Some communities are advocating for mixed uses and they're putting in overlay districts to attract a mix of uses. Others are doing it with arts districts. Others are trying to revitalize their downtown areas to have a mix where you can have a retailer on the first floor and residential up above it. I think these are the things that you can do to be more proactive, to look at the way people are living in this current economy, and with an interest in a more sustainable way of living. Well, Milton has a very small number of commercial districts. I think we can look at whether those districts could expand in any way. I think we could look at some larger parcels that have adequate access and could have adequate parking to see whether there would be potential. I think we could look at town-owned land to see if we're using our town-owned land efficiently, whether there would be any surplus land that might be available that could be put out on and join the tax rolls. And this would need to be, I think, a process where the whole town is engaged. I don't think it's one in which the planning board would be engaged. You'd go out and have charrettes or visioning sessions. You'd have this carried forth over a period of time. And the planning board, with the survey that they put forth, shows that the residents have an interest in taking a look at this. First of all, I think we should think of the master plan as a guide for development, and I think we need to look at what is positive and what is working well in Milton, and then how we might want to augment that. One of the difficulties is if you look at the process that over the last 2 years on the Tucker Village proposal was that process. It's where there is unpredictability to it. There's not a sense of what people would support at the outset. So the master plan really would allow for us to get buy-in, to get consensus, that people would have a shared vision for the town. And then when new proposals come forth, that's the framework against which those proposals are gauged and judged. So I do think a master plan is very important, and I shouldn't say today what I think should be in it on every site, or I wouldn't be a good advocate for the process that I think is important to come first. Milton is a wonderful town. I moved here 12 years ago. I value the town as well as anybody who's been living here for much longer, and hopefully even for much shorter. I value the historic character of the town. I value the quality of the schools, the access to open space, the Blue Hills, access to Boston via public transportation and via bike paths. But I also like what defines a community is the people within the community. There are people here who are very passionate about Milton. They share their talents with Milton. We saw a number of people speak before us who share their skills with us. And I would like to share my skill set with Milton. I think it's a skill set that could benefit the town through the planning board. It's 25 years of this kind of work, day in and day out. It's a network of professionals across a lot of different disciplines who can help inform and advise the decisions that the planning board makes. Thank you. I ask for your support on April 27th.